Buddha's teachings. Whether life is happy or suffering is all due to the mind. Practice. Letting go. If the mind is at peace, life will be peaceful. Throughout the vast landscape of human history, individuals have continuously sought answers to life's most profound questions. Why do we suffer? What makes life peaceful? Where does happiness come from? Among the countless teachings, philosophies, and spiritual traditions that attempt to address these questions, the Buddha's teachings stand out for their clarity and psychological depth. One of the most fundamental insights the Buddha offered is this: mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is chief. Everything is made by the mind. This is not merely a poetic statement, it is the foundational principle of Buddhist understanding about human experience. According to the Buddha, whether life appears joyful or miserable does not depend primarily on external conditions. Rather, it depends on the state of the mind that perceives, interprets, and reacts to those conditions. Two people may face the same situation: illness, financial loss, betrayal, uncertainty, and yet experience completely different levels of suffering. Similarly, two individuals may enjoy the same success, comfort, or closeness of relationships, but their experience of happiness may differ widely. The mind is the lens through which reality is filtered, and it shapes reality accordingly. And so the Buddha emphasized, if the mind is at peace, life is at peace. Peace of mind does not arise by accident. It emerges from practice, particularly the practice of letting go. Letting go is not apathy, nor is it indifference. It is the ability to release clinging, to stop fighting what is uncontrollable, and to rest in clarity and wisdom. This essay explores the deep teachings of the Buddha on the nature of mind, suffering, happiness, and the transformative practice of letting go. Through these insights, we discover how inner peace is not a distant dream, but a practical, achievable state within our own hearts. 2. The Buddha's view of happiness and suffering. Happiness and suffering do not come from the outside world. Human beings instinctively believe that their suffering is caused by people, events, and circumstances. I am unhappy because others don't treat me well. I am stressed because life is too difficult. I am sad because things didn't go the way I wanted. I am peaceful only when everything is calm and in control. But the Buddha taught that this is a misunderstanding. External circumstances may trigger emotions, but they do not create suffering. Suffering arises from the mind's reaction to circumstances. An external event is simply that, an event. But it becomes suffering when the mind resists it, clings to it, or labels it with strong emotional meaning. Two people lose their job, one falls into despair, the other sees a new opportunity. Two people experience aging, one fears it, the other accepts it gracefully. Two people encounter criticism, one is hurt, the other remains composed. The event is the same. The mind is different. 2. The true cause of suffering. Clinging, upadana. The Buddha identified the root of suffering as attachment, or clinging. This clinging takes many forms. Clinging to desires, I must get what I want. Clinging to views, things must be the way I believe they should be. Clinging to identity, this is who I am, unchangeable. Clinging to people, I cannot live without this person's approval, presence, or love. Clinging to emotions, I cannot allow myself to feel pain. The more we cling, the more we fear losing what we cling to, and ironically, the more we cling, the more suffering is guaranteed, because everything in life is impermanent. Without understanding this truth, people chase one desire after another, hoping that satisfaction will come from outside. But as soon as they obtain what they want, fear and dissatisfaction begin again. 3. Happiness is the absence of clinging. The Buddha did not define happiness as pleasure, comfort, or success. In fact, he warned that pleasure is unstable and unreliable. Genuine happiness, according to the Buddha, arises from freedom of mind. Happiness and freedom from attachment. Suffering, the presence of attachment. When the mind no longer clings, it becomes spacious, light, and flexible. It can embrace life as it is, without fear, without dependency, without the emotional turbulence of needing things to always be a certain way. Thus, happiness is internal, peace is internal, suffering is internal, turmoil is internal. Everything begins and ends with the mind. 3. The nature of the mind, the creator of our reality. 1. The mind constructs experience. Modern neuroscience has confirmed what the Buddha discovered 2,600 years ago. The mind does not simply receive information from the outside world. It actively interprets, labels, and creates meaning. This means events themselves are neutral. The mind gives them positive or negative value. The mind generates emotional responses. The mind creates stories, fears, and hopes. The mind chooses how to remember the past and imagine the future. Thus, two individuals can live the same life but experience completely different levels of happiness. As the Buddha stated, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. 2. The untrained mind is turbulent. The untrained mind is easily disturbed. A single harsh word ruins its peace. A small delay causes irritation. A minor failure shakes its confidence. A passing fear expands into anxiety. A desire becomes a demand. A discomfort becomes unbearable suffering. This mind constantly reacts, judges, compares, fears, and desires. It is never still, never satisfied, never free. 3. The trained mind is peaceful. Through mindfulness, ethical living, meditation, and wisdom, the mind becomes stable, clear, and spacious. A trained mind responds instead of reacts, understands instead of judges, accepts instead of resists, lets go instead of holding tightly, sees reality instead of illusions. In such a mind, even pain does not necessarily become suffering. Even discomfort does not necessarily become emotional turmoil. Even chaos does not disturb inner stillness. This is why monks can remain peaceful in storms, prisons, or poverty. Their peace comes from inner mastery, not external conditions. 4. Letting go, the core practice of inner freedom. The Buddha taught many practices, but among them, the practice of letting go, Pali Vosagga, is considered one of the highest and most transformative. 1. What letting go really means. Letting go does not mean ignoring problems, suppressing emotions, avoiding relationships, giving up goals, rejecting life, becoming passive or indifferent. Instead, letting go means releasing unrealistic expectations, softening emotional clinging, accepting impermanence, loosening the grip of ego, not forcing life to obey our desires, understanding what is and isn't under our control. Letting go is a gentle, wise, and compassionate practice. And it is the art of flowing with life instead of fighting against it. 2. Why letting go leads to peace. The root of turmoil is resistance. Whenever the mind refuses to accept reality, suffering arises. We cling to youth, we fear aging. We cling to relationships, we fear loss. We cling to success, we fear failure. We cling to comfort, we fear discomfort. We cling to identity, we fear change. The mind that clings is easily shattered. The mind that lets go is unbreakable. Letting go frees the mind from the demands and pressures it creates for itself. When clinging is released, there is nothing inside to be disturbed. Peace naturally appears. Letting go of desires, the first gate to peace. In the Buddha's teachings, craving, tanha, is considered the root of all suffering. From the moment we are born until our final breath, human beings live in an endless stream of desires, wanting to be wealthier, wanting to be more beautiful, wanting recognition, wanting others to love us, wanting everything to go our way, wanting a perfect, unchanging life. But as the Buddha taught, no fire burns brighter than the fire of craving. Desire creates endless restlessness. Craving acts like a thirst that can never be quenched. Even when we obtain what we want, the satisfaction is temporary. Very soon, we want more. We fear losing what we have. We worry that the good things will disappear. The more we achieve, the more restless the mind becomes, because we are not truly seeking happiness. We are seeking certainty in a world that is constantly changing. But nothing in life stays beautiful forever, stays young, stays healthy, stays successful, stays by our side. When we rely on the impermanent to provide stability, disappointment becomes inevitable. 2. Letting go is not the rejection of desire. The Buddha did not teach us to live without goals or aspirations. What he taught was, do not turn desires into dependency. Do not turn dreams into the source of your suffering. Desire itself is natural, but clinging is what creates pain. A person may work hard, pursue great goals, and still remain peaceful if the mind does not cling to the outcome. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go means fulfilling responsibilities, living with awareness, not letting success or failure disturb inner peace. 3. The mind that lets go of desire finds peace. When we loosen the grip of craving, we begin to feel mental lightness, simplicity in life, clarity about what truly matters, less worry, less fear, less dissatisfaction. Peace that does not depend on having or not having. A person who knows how to let go can enjoy everything because they do not fear losing anything. A person who clings suffers constantly, even when they have plenty. 6. Letting go of expectations. The secret to freedom in human relationships. One of the greatest sources of suffering comes from expectations, expecting others to behave the way we want, and expecting life to follow the script we have written in our minds. When expectations are fulfilled, we feel happy. When expectations are broken, we suffer. But more importantly, most expectations lie outside our control. 1. Expectations are hidden. Attachments. Expectations are actually a subtle form of attachment. We expect parents to understand us, a partner to always love us as before, children to obey, friends to always support us, colleagues to treat us kindly, life to be fair. But life does not operate according to our personal desires. People also do not operate according to our personal desires. And when they do not behave as we expect, we feel disappointed, hurt, angry, uncomfortable, resentful. This suffering does not come from the other person. It comes from the expectations we place on them. 2. Letting go of expectations does not mean accepting mistreatment. Letting go does not mean accepting harmful behavior, ignoring responsibility, avoiding boundaries, failing to communicate needs. Letting go means not demanding that others change to make us happy, not forcing life to function exactly as we want, not letting expectations control our emotional state. Letting go means understanding the nature of life and people without forcing the impossible. 3. When you let go of expectations, relationships become healthier. When we stop demanding that others make us happy, something miraculous happens. We listen more, we judge less, we become less angry, we appreciate differences, we see people for who they are, not through the lens of our expectations. A person who can love without controlling, without possessing, without demanding, is a truly free person. Letting go of the past. Healing through understanding. The past is something many people cannot release. Painful memories, mistakes, regrets, and emotional wounds become a heavy burden on the heart. But the Buddha taught, the past is gone, it cannot be changed, but you're clinging to it, that is where suffering arises. 1. The past does not hurt us. Our clinging does a painful memory does not harm us by itself. It only harms us when we revisit it, replay it, dig it up, blame ourselves, resent others, dwell in regret. Only then does suffering continue. Someone may have been hurt 10 years ago, but they relive the pain daily by clinging to the memory. The past is only a story in the mind. We suffer not because of what happened, but because we refuse to put the story down. 2. Forgiveness is a form of letting go. Forgiveness does not mean the pain was not real. The other person was right. We must reconcile with them. Forgiveness means I choose to free myself from the emotional chains of the past. When we refuse to forgive, we think we are punishing others, but in truth, we are punishing ourselves. The other person may have already forgotten. They may be living happily, they may no longer be bound, but we remain imprisoned. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves. 3. Letting go of the past allows healing. When we let go of the past, we open the door to peace, self-respect, freedom, the light of the present moment. If we continue to see life through the lens of old wounds, we will never recognize the new blessings that are arriving. 8. Letting go of the future. Releasing fear and anxiety. We do not only cling to the past, we cling to the future. This clinging creates anxiety, insecurity, pressure, and stressful living. The future is an illusion. We continuously create the future does not exist. Only thoughts about the future exist. Yet the mind constantly imagines disasters, predicts danger, fears failure, seeks certainty. The exhausting part is not the future itself. The exhausting part is the stories we create about the future. 2. Anxiety comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled. Anxiety arises when we want life to follow our plans, even though deep down we know we cannot control everything. We cannot control others. We cannot guarantee outcomes. We cannot prevent change. When we attempt to control the uncontrollable, the mind creates fear, tension, worry. Letting go means accepting that no one can hold the entire future in their hands. 3. Letting go leads to presence. When we release fears about the future, we return to the present moment, and only here can we feel joy, think clearly, act wisely, truly live. The future is built from the present. If we are peaceful now, the future will follow that peace. 9. Letting go of ego. Discovering the freedom beyond I, me, and mine. Among all attachments, the strongest and most deeply rooted is the attachment to the ego, the sense of I, me, and mine. According to the Buddha, this mistaken identification is the ultimate source of suffering. 1. The ego is an illusion created by the mind. The Buddha taught that what we call self is not a solid, permanent entity. It is a temporary combination of body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness. These 5 aggregates, the 5 skandhas, constantly change, yet the mind clings to them as my body, my feelings, my thoughts, my personality. The ego is not a real thing. It is a story the mind continuously creates and defends. 2. The ego creates conflict and suffering. When there is a strong ego, the mind becomes easily disturbed. When someone disagrees, we feel attacked. When someone criticizes, we feel wounded. When someone succeeds, we feel inferior or jealous. When life changes, we feel threatened. When desires aren't met, we feel frustrated. The ego depends on comparison, wanting to be better, wanting to be admired, wanting to be right, wanting to be special, wanting to be unchanging. But because everything in life is impermanent, the ego constantly feels insecure and defensive. This is why people suffer even when nothing major is happening externally. 3. Letting go of ego does not mean losing yourself. Common misunderstandings. Letting go of ego does not mean erasing your personality, suppressing your emotions, becoming passive, losing motivation, not caring about yourself. Rather, it means no longer taking everything personally, not basing your worth on comparison, being free from the need for validation, acting out of wisdom, not pride or fear, embracing change without resistance. A person without ego-based attachment can be strong, confident, successful, and yet calm and humble. But when ego falls away, compassion arises. The less we cling to I, me, and mine, the more naturally we feel connected to others. Instead of competing, comparing, resenting, judging, we begin to understand, empathize, and love deeply without conditions. The Buddha taught, seeing the self in others and others in the self, one becomes gentle and compassionate. When ego dissolves, a vast space of kindness appears in its place, and where compassion exists, suffering cannot survive. X. Mindfulness, the practice that brings the mind back to peace. To let go, the mind must first be aware. Without awareness, the mind reacts blindly, clings automatically, and falls into old patterns. Mindfulness, sati, is the heart of the Buddha's practice, the gentle, continuous awareness of the body, feelings, thoughts, the present moment. Mindfulness is not a religious ritual. It is a mental skill, a way of being. 1. Mindfulness reveals the true nature of the mind. When we observe the mind without judgment, we begin to see desires arise and pass, anger arises and passes, fear arises and passes, thoughts arise and pass, pain arises and passes. Everything is temporary. This simple recognition allows the mind to relax. We no longer chase after every desire or fight every emotion. We learn to watch without being carried away. 2. Awareness creates space between stimulus and reaction. An untrained mind reacts instantly. Emotion, reaction, impulse, action, discomfort, complaint. A mindful mind notices first, then chooses. This space is the birthplace of wisdom. Instead of reacting with anger, we can respond with calmness. Instead of reacting with fear, we can respond with clarity. Instead of reacting with craving, we can respond with balance. 3. Mindfulness is the foundation of letting go. Letting go is impossible without awareness. You cannot release what you do not notice. You cannot abandon what you cling to unconsciously. Mindfulness helps us see where we cling, how we cling, why we cling. Once seen clearly, the mind naturally begins to loosen its grip. 4. Mindfulness brings the mind to the present moment. The present is the only place where life happens, healing happens, peace exists, wisdom arises. When the mind lives too much in the past, sadness. When the mind lives too much in the future, anxiety. When the mind lives in the present, peace. The present moment is the doorway to inner freedom. Chiktiya, meditation. Training the mind to be still, clear, and free. While mindfulness can be practiced anywhere, meditation, bhavana, is the deeper training that strengthens and stabilizes the mind. Meditation is not about forcing the mind to be blank, escaping reality, achieving something mystical. Meditation is the art of calming the mental storms, observing thoughts without attachment, cultivating clarity and insight, resting in stillness. 1. Meditation reduces mental noise. The untrained mind is noisy. Endless thoughts, emotional turbulence, constant planning, repeating memories, inner arguments. Meditation gently slows this noise. When thoughts settle, the mind becomes like still water, reflecting life clearly, calmly, without distortion. 2. Meditation strengthens emotional stability. Through meditation, we learn to allow emotions to arise without being overwhelmed by them. Anger loses its power, fear loosens its grip, sadness softens, cravings weaken. We begin to understand that emotions are simply temporary visitors, not our identity. 3. Meditation cultivates insight, vipassana. Insight, meditation, vipassana, reveals the impermanence of all things, anicca, the unsatisfactory nature of clinging, dukkha, the absence of a permanent self, anatta. Seeing these truths directly changes how we relate to life. Instead of clinging, we begin to release. Instead of resisting, we begin to accept. Instead of fighting reality, we begin to harmonize with it. 4. Meditation creates deep inner peace. When the mind becomes still and clear, a profound sense of peace arises. Not dependent on conditions, not based on pleasure, not shaken by adversity. This peace is what the Buddha called niramisa sukha, the happiness that does not come from the senses, but from freedom. Dundh. Wisdom, understanding reality as it truly is. Mindfulness and meditation lead to wisdom, panya. Wisdom is the ability to see things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. 1. Wisdom sees impermanence. Everything changes with the body, emotions, relationships, success and failure, pleasure and pain, life itself. When we deeply understand impermanence, we stop clinging, we appreciate without possessing. We love without fear, we live without attachment. 2. Wisdom sees the nature of suffering. Wisdom helps us see clearly. What causes suffering? Clinging. How suffering continues? Habit and ignorance. How suffering ends? Letting go. Life does not cause suffering. The mind's reaction does. 3. Wisdom means non-self. Wisdom reveals. There is no fixed I. Thoughts are not me. Emotions are not me. The body is not me. This insight brings enormous freedom. Without a rigid ego, the mind becomes flexible, peaceful, humble, compassionate. 4. Wisdom guides. Right action. With wisdom, every action becomes mindful and skillful. We speak with kindness. We act responsibly. We avoid harming others. We cultivate goodness. Wisdom turns life into a path of peace,